looking toward the equinox, planting and harvesting in the garden of life. Hello everyone, this is Taliesin McKnight, and thank you for joining me today. Today I wanted to talk about a spiritual practice that is actually very practical and something that I've used for many years. And that is following nature's rhythm and to look at each new year as a new life, a new chance at life. Often I think that we tend to get stuck in our ways, and especially as we get older, we begin to just look at the past and what we've done so far. However, each new year, and really also each new day, as above so below, is a new life cycle, a new opportunity, a new chance to expand and to develop our potentials, to reach those things that bring meaning to us, those things that bring us peace and happiness, and also to cut out those things that don't bring us peace. Life is a garden, and sometimes we need to weed the garden, and sometimes we need to plant and to tend those things that nurture us. We should nurture those things that nurture us. So, what is this all about? In our modern lives, we often tend to be disconnected from nature. And for many of us, when we look at some of the most ancient festivals and some of the most ancient celebrations of nature's rhythm, we could think, well, the agricultural life cycle doesn't really affect me so much because I don't live on a farm. However, I think it's very useful to think of each new day and each new year as a new opportunity to expand. September is finally here. For though many of us here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's been a brutal summer. And September is here and it's most welcome. Finally, we can begin to feel the coolness of the morning. We're getting a little bit of autumn here. Those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, it's about to be springtime. So, there is an agricultural life cycle that I think is very practical in life. Spirituality is not about escaping the world or escapism. Spirituality should be brought down into the material. Much like a tree that reaches up into the heavens and draws in spiritual forces from above and brings that down into the earth, the roots deep into the earth. Wholeness is to be connected with all aspects of ourselves. Yes, we aspire to the heavens, and yet we are rooted here in the earth. So, what I've often done, I live in the Northern Hemisphere, is every springtime, I think of those things that I really want to bring in this year. What are the things that I want to bring to fruition? What are those things that I want to nurture in my life? I see Max is here. Hi, Max. How are you doing? I do my lives on Facebook for the most part. And then, of course, I also post on YouTube. And then some videos are just for Patreon only because it helps to monetize my content. But anyways, I was talking about planting and harvesting in life. Something that I've done since I was, about 20 years old. Quite a lot of time. This is something that's always been very meaningful for me. Every winter, I really think of what I want to do for that year, and I have like 3 months to really think about it. And in the spring, it's all about planting. What are we planting in our lives? What do we want to nurture? It's all about planning and about putting into motion a new life cycle. We can't just think about the past, or even just daydream about the future. Each new year is a new life cycle, a new opportunity for life, a new opportunity for growth. I don't know about you, but me, as I get older, I want to always expand. Even when I get into old age, I would like each new year to be looked upon as a new life. Maybe I learn Japanese this year. Maybe I learn Russian. Maybe I'm going to learn about French cooking. Always expanding. As we go through a cycle, it's not just go spinning our wheels and returning in the same place where we started. It's more like a spiral. A spiral is a return, but a little bit expanded. A little bit, you may be at the same point as last time, but a little bit expanded. Or you can reverse this and think of it as drawing more and more inward to the kernel of who we really are. And now we look towards the fall equinox here in the northern hemisphere. The equinox in many different cultures was associated with the harvest. So quite simply, in an agricultural way of being part of the land or planting, spring is the time, for the most part, spring is a time of planting. We sow the seed. We tend the garden. We tend the agriculture throughout the summer months. And then in the autumn is a time of harvest. That's where we reap what we sow. So now September is upon us, and as we look at the harvest, what I always like to do is do a personal inventory. I look at everything that I've created throughout the year. What have I done this year? Much like as we age, we begin to look over our lives and look at everything that we've created, everything that we've done. So spring is a time of new beginnings, and autumn is a time of harvest, a time of celebration, and a time of looking back at all that we've reaped. We're reaping what we have sown, whether that be a good harvest or a bad harvest. So in the spring we plant, and in the fall or the autumn equinox, we look back at everything that we've created. It is a celebration of life as it comes to a close. If we look out at nature, at the turning leaves, you could say that nature itself, symbolically speaking, is born every spring, reaches the fullness of life in the summer. And in the autumn, as the leaves begin to turn, it's like gray hairs. As the leaves begin turning, it could be looked at as like gray hairs, symbolically speaking, in nature. The turning of the leaves, the graying of the hair. And finally, the leaves begin to fall, and we enter into a cycle of death. And in many cultures, we have like Halloween. That's a little bit ahead. I wish it'd hurry up and get here, y'all. The Festival of the Dead is something that we find in several different cultures around this time. We have the Mexican Day of the Dead in the Americas, which probably goes back to indigenous beliefs. And in Celtic countries, we have Samhain, which is a festival of the dead, where we get a lot of our modern Halloween. And then if you look at voodoo, Fête Gede is November 1st, Fête Gede, which is a little bit different. It's not my tradition. I'm not really speaking on it. I'm just noting a similarity that Fête Gede is November 1st, is a festival of the dead in voodoo. So that's Africa. You go to Britain, you see, November 1st. Of course, the new day begins at sunset, October 31st, Samhain, Day of the Dead. You go to the Americas, the Mexican Day of the Dead. So this is something found in different continents. It's found around the world. This idea that new life blooms in the spring, fullness of life or maturity in the summer. In the autumn, we reap. We look at everything that we've created, and we harvest everything that we've developed and nurtured. Finally, we get to the time of death, and the cycle begins. So I like to look at life as a cycle. You could look at, to the ancients, they would look out at nature in the book of nature, and they would project kind of their own inner psychology out in the world. So that looking out at the world, we didn't just see a sunrise, we didn't just see a salmon in the river, we didn't just see the planting and harvest. It was all reflected upon And there was a deep wisdom that was evolved. So in looking in nature, we can come to understand ourselves. And looking within ourselves, we can come to understand a bit about nature. So it's good to think of things as a life cycle. You could say that each day, when we wake up, it's like being born. Okay? And as you reach the middle of your day, that's like maturity. Finally, unless you're a rampant night owl like myself, sunset is a time of relaxation. And in the evening, most people tend to calm down. And that's like old age. And then finally, when people go to sleep, they appear to die, symbolically speaking. Metaphorically speaking, it's going to sleep is like a death. And what happens? Your body is still. It's like a death when you go to sleep, and then you enter a dream world. So you could see how there's an analogy, a metaphor here of a life cycle. When you go to sleep, you enter a world of dreams, like an afterlife, and then you're born again. So you could see that each day we wake up, that's like birth, we go throughout our day, and then in the evening we relax and kind of look at what we've created. And then at night we go to sleep and enter another world, and then it starts all over again. That is a life cycle. And each new year is a new life cycle. So whether you're celebrating, whether it's beginning to start autumn for us here in the northern hemisphere, or the spring and time of planting for those in the southern hemisphere, either way, September is upon us. And I think that it's a good time to think about, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, what have we created this year? What have we nurtured? And if we look back at this year and maybe we're not happy with what we created, that gives us food for thought for the coming year. And that is how, instead of just having a constant wheel or cycle, we could begin to have a spiral. The spiral teaches us that it is a return, but always a little bit expanded to kind of become more of who we're meant to be. So whether in a daily life cycle, in the cycle of planting and harvest in nature, which I think it's very important that we keep being attuned with nature because that nurtures our spirit, or looking at the phases of the moon, we have a life cycle. So anyway, September is upon us, and I hope that everyone is doing very well, and keep up the great work, and keep nurturing those things that nurture you. And also cut out those things that don't bring peace, because we can't just be creative. Just building, we also have to knock down. So everything is about a balance. And that's what this time of year is all about, equal day and night. It is a balance. So I hope that everyone is having a wonderful September, and the equinox is almost upon us. Equinox, the etymology of that is equal night, equal day and night. But anyways, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I will see y'all in the next video. Have a great day, y'all.